As one film pundit on the internet once said so eloquently, all film is subjective. And that saying alone works in tandem with the movie that we are talking about today. Because if it weren't for this one pundit, I would have never seen this movie in theaters at all. It was about a month ago when I was roaming around the internet and watching one of my favorite YouTube channels that also serves as a podcast on the internet. And that podcast channel said, hey, we are actually heading over to your area next, and we will be there on a specific date watching a movie in theaters, and you will be able to watch the movie with us as long as you get a ticket and you get to sit in the theater as we watch the movie together. So I said, you know what? I'm actually kind of interested. I would like to go check it out. So I bought my ticket. I said, you know what? Today's the day. We're going. So I headed over to the theater to actually see a movie that this one person said that we would be watching. And lo and behold, it is a movie that I personally was not really interested in watching. Because, like I said before, all film is subjective, and to me personally, this isn't really the type of film that I would actually go to see. So if you've already seen the title of this video, you already know what movie that is, and that is Wicked. Now, specifically, we're talking about Wicked for Good, but I want to make sure that this video talks about both films. But you might be asking yourself, Marcelo, you didn't talk about the first movie. How is it that you're going to be talking about the second movie and not the first movie? Well, there are two reasons behind that. The first reason that I'll be talking about both movies in this video is because I did not see the first movie in theaters, even though everybody was raving about it. Everybody was talking about how this movie is incredible. I only got to see it after it came out on streaming. And obviously, I went back and I watched it about a day before I actually went to see Wicked for Good in theaters. Now, you might be asking yourself, Marcelo, what would get you to go see Wicked for Good in theaters? And that is a very funny fact, because it is none other than one of my favorite YouTube channels that also serve as a podcast that said that they were actually coming over to the Central Florida area. And I said, you know what? This is actually a good opportunity to go see this one YouTuber that I enjoy so much watching. And believe it or not, I got to meet none other than John Campea. Yes, John Campea actually made his way over to the Orlando area, and we were able to go and see him and actually talk to him. The crowd was huge. I am not gonna lie. The crowd was huge, and it really impressed. It was absolutely wild seeing all those people there to go see him. I mean, there was even someone who put it on social media, the amount of people that were there. He was at Disney Springs, and he went to the AMC theater there, and look at the amount of people that were there. It's insane that all these people were there to actually see him. It was so insane that even Disney came out and said, listen, you can't be all conglomerated here the way that you guys are. And then he actually was super kind with Disney and said, hey, listen, if we can do this somewhere else, we'd be more than happy to do it. And we ended up doing it in front of the AMC theater. That is where I actually got, along with everybody that was there, to go see him and take a photo with him. Originally, I was not going to go into the theater to actually see the movie. I was just going to show up there sort of closer to the time that he was going to be out of the theater, just to be there and take a photo with him and go home. But I said, you know what? Why not take this opportunity to see Wicked for Good in theaters, since I had already watched the movie a day prior? And I was like, okay, I watched the original, the first one, a day prior. I want to see how well the continuation is. And believe it or not, I am very surprised as to the fact that I'm going to say that this movie truly did impress me. But before I can talk about Wicked for Good, I need to go back and talk about Wicked and what I thought of the first movie. Now, I think that the first movie is a very well orchestrated and well thought out film. Now, obviously, my experience with Wicked has been extremely limited to this film, to at least both films. And to me, I'm not going to say that I'm like a massive fan of musicals, but I will say that I do enjoy musicals. I mean, The Color Purple is a great example of a musical that I actually enjoy. Grease is a great example of another musical that I really enjoy. Xanadu is another example. So I mean, a lot of different musicals have popped up where I'm like, oh, I love this. I mean, I grew up watching High School Musical, so musicals may not be my expertise, but I like musicals. I really do enjoy them. So to see Wicked and watch Wicked and see how well choreographed the music is, like exquisitely done, to the point where you're like, I got curious. I gotta be honest. I got curious. I went online and I looked up how well, like, they were able to finance this movie. And mind you, Wicked and Wicked for Good were both shot back to back, and the budget for Wicked was $150 million. Now I'm just gonna let you sit with that thought in your brain here. $150 million. That is pocket change compared to a lot of other movies that have the same level of effects as this one. And honestly, like, I was watching the first Wicked and I was like, they put every single penny they had on that camera. They literally put every single penny on screen. It is that impressive, you know? And honestly, like, not every song of that movie lands. Obviously, you have the very big final number, which is like super impactful, but there are maybe like one or two songs in the middle there where I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Like Popular was kind of funny and joyful there. You know, when we see Alphaba like pour her heart out into the fact that she's finally being seen, you know, in the first movie, like, that was a great song as well. I mean, honestly, like, a lot of things land in that first movie. And obviously, the two leading roles are the most iconic pieces of this movie, having, obviously, Cynthia Erivo playing Alphaba and having Ariana Grande play Galinda, which is incredible. Honestly, like, these are two mind-blowing performers. I mean, it's just like, I try to find the right words to describe these two, because whatever I try to describe them as is just going to be extremely limited. I mean, limited. Sorry, I that got into my brain and I had to let that out. But honestly, like, my words are limited when it comes to describing these incredible performers. So honestly, it's mind-blowing how well made this movie is, the first movie is, and it's so superfluous and colorful and grand, and to think that it's only $150 million that was put into that first movie, like there's just no words. It's just absolutely amazing. Now, if there is a critique that I do have of the first Wicked movie, is that it feels a little longer than it needs to be. That first movie feels like it's a little longer than it needs to be, for me personally. I understand that the musical is pretty long as is, but I felt like that first film felt a little longer to me than it was necessary. But I really enjoyed it. It's an instant classic. There's no other way to put it other than the first Wicked movie is an instant classic, and that's how I like to frame it in my mind. And I know that this is going to be a movie that maybe 15 or 20 years down the line, people are going to be looking back and thinking, yeah, Wicked was definitely that one movie that struck with audiences on a big note, and people just came back to keep watching and watching. So I definitely think that effect alone is going to translate very well to this movie. And I feel like it's no different when it comes to the quality, the grandeur, the set design, which is absolutely mind-blowing as well. The fact that everything is practical and feels physical in that world, that all of that still applies to Wicked for Good, which even though it is, I think, 30 minutes shorter than the first film, I do have to agree. This movie is absolutely amazing. Wicked for Good is absolutely amazing, even though it is a little bit shorter. And honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, at the end of this movie, I felt like it could have gone on for maybe another 10 minutes. But I just love how well paced this movie is compared to the first one. You know, the first one just felt like they were kind of like stretching out the story, while Wicked for Good feels like the story is perfectly balanced in such a way that it can fit in that 2-hour and 10-minute slot. And honestly, I just absolutely loved this movie. I have to say that Wicked as a whole is not for me. I'm not the target audience for Wicked. But after seeing both movies, I have to say, I am now officially a Wicked fan. I cannot help but wake up in the morning, it's been over a week already that I went to see this movie. And that song, every time I wake up, I listen to Wicked for Good, Wicked, like for good, the song for good, in my brain every time I wake up, for some reason, which is insane to even process, because that's how impactful the music in this movie is. And apart from that, the story is so well told. You have this 12-year gap, at least that's how they try to frame it in this movie, but there's this sort of 12-year gap since the events of Wicked. And now you're seeing like all these things that have been, progressed with. The yellow brick road is being constructed. And then you also have, all these other characters that now have evolved from their characters from the first movie that are now like having passed on. You're just having this incredible experience with these characters that are sort of darker in a way, and I feel like that's a plus for this movie, that a lot of the things that happen in Wicked for Good are a lot darker. I feel like that makes the movie better. So all these characters are going through these like sort of dark times, and the fact that it's not all sort of like bubblegum beautiful like the first movie, and this one tends to lean darker. I liked that this one was a bit darker, a bit more. The fact that this movie was a bit darker just felt more realistic to me. And to me, that's a really interesting dynamic at play here. That you can have one very colorful movie and the other one also have those colorful moments, but also have that impact, that deepness, that depth that you actually truly are looking for in a story like this. And Wicked for Good delivers on that. And also the performances are top-notch as well. You have, again, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande being great in this movie as well. You have, Jonathan Bailey, who, obviously plays the prince role in this movie. But obviously he's, infatuated with Elphaba, and Elphaba is the type of woman that he wants. And you see those moments of heartbreak in this movie, and he plays through those as well. And obviously, if you haven't watched the movie yet, you know that Jonathan Bailey is playing the Scarecrow, which is a complete twist on the story and gives us so much more depth and background to what we see in Wizard of Oz. And then you have Bach, who is played by Ethan Slater. I think Ethan Slater is incredible in this movie. You see more of him singing as well. I honestly, truly do believe that this movie has an ensemble of absolutely amazing performers, people who just absolutely will blow you away. And just seeing all these threads being threaded throughout the story that ultimately start from the first movie, then thread themselves into this movie, I think are great. Seeing how the Cowardly Lion is actually the lion that Elphaba actually frees in the first movie. Seeing, these little details that go a long way into making that transition feel natural from the first movie to the second movie, and obviously seeing, the progress of how Oz grows from one movie to the next is incredible, and seeing the construction of the Yellow Brick Road. I honestly, every little detail that is put on screen just absolutely is amazing. And like I said before, I think that just like the first movie, with, Defying Gravity being the titular song that you hear Alphabet singing, and obviously in this case, Cynthia Erivo, I feel like the same impact that song has is the same level of impact as For Good. And I tend to believe that For Good, for me personally, For Good is slightly better than Defying Gravity, even though both of them are the titular songs of each film. I do believe that For Good has that necessary impact in the end. I think that you listen to that song and you hear the vulnerability in Ariana Grande's voice, and you hear, Cynthia Erivo just pouring her heart out into this moment that you're seeing on screen, just absolutely just tugs on my heartstrings and just absolutely makes me love this movie even more than it does, and it stuck with me. Believe it or not, I never thought that I would say this, but Wicked actually stuck with me through it all, and I'm just absolutely amazed at what was created for the big screen. This is the type of movie that you want to go see in a theater, along with other people in this communal space. It's just absolutely amazing. And to think that both films are of such high standard, and to have been so, glad to see this in theaters, honestly, I just have no words other than just being absolutely grateful that I had the opportunity to see this in theaters. Now, obviously, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, so you said you're not into musicals, but where would you rank Wicked? Where would you rank Wicked and Wicked for Good in, say, a combined state? And I would probably say that it's amongst some of the best musicals that I've ever seen. And for sure, like I said before, people are definitely going to be talking about this movie for years to come. Now, I do see something in the future of Wicked. Two things, actually. The first thing, which was announced online, and that is the fact that they might explore Wicked and the Wicked universe a little further down the line. And obviously, I find that interesting, but obviously it won't be with Alphaba and Galinda. It will probably be with another character. And the second thing is that I definitely see them expanding this to, say, a 4-hour edit. And what do I mean by that? Is that they could easily tell the story of this film in an edit where you could combine both films and make a 4-hour edit. Now, this is just the geek in me, the editing geek in me, that would love to see a 4-hour edit, even though I already thought the first movie was long enough. But I really think that it would be really funny to see an entire 4-hour edit of Wicked for Good come out, and obviously add a bunch of deleted scenes. And trust me, it would be a very long musical film, but I think that it would be very interesting to see that happen at some point, because they edit Wicked for Good in such a way that you could insert that at some point. So I would definitely be happy seeing that at some point down the line. Now, I think that a big highlight for me is how well they were able to integrate the story of Wizard of Oz into this film. And to think that a lot of different beats that we see in Wizard of Oz are played out here in this film, even though we never see Dorothy's face, and we get to see how all the three other characters that we get to know and love end up in the situation that they do in these stories. So I really do think that Wicked does expand the story of Wizard of Oz in a great way. And it truly will eventually strike a chord with people who watch it and want to have that connection to the original films. The original film, I should say, of Wizard of Oz. So it succeeds by and far at what it's supposed to do, which is to actually give us an incredible experience, expand the lore of a already classic film, and deliver on the promise of creating new memories and a new classic for a new generation. So Wicked is absolutely amazing. And to think to myself that none of this would have been possible if it weren't for John Campea showing up in the Orlando area and me wanting to go see him. So it's mind-blowing. The fact that I was first introduced to Wicked back when like it was a commercial on TV. Like I remember like watching TV as a kid and they used to pop up like, oh, coming soon now, the new Wicked musical. And I would see that on TV and I was like, okay, cool. But why is the witch the good person now? Like, why is the witch being the protagonist in this case? Like, that just never made sense to me. Like, seeing the musical and the commercials on TV and seeing promotional material and saying like, oh, why is the Wicked Witch the protagonist? And after watching Wicked and being familiarized now with the characters and how they're being portrayed and how this is sort of like a what-if scenario of that story that we see in The Wizard of Oz, I just have to say that I'm absolutely in love with Wicked, and I truly cannot wait to see what the future holds for these stories. And like I say in all of my videos, all of this was just my opinion, my views, my thoughts on what I thought of Wicked, and I want to hear from you. What do you guys think? Did you guys like Wicked for good? Did you like Wicked the original film? Do you think one is better than the other? Do you think that we will see a future in Oz or a series that ultimately will happen? I mean, honestly, watching this film, it reminded me of other films. One of them being Wonka, like, you know, the Willy Wonka movie with Timothée Chalamet. That reminded me a lot of what I see in this film. And trust me, I was blown away by that movie, and this movie delivered that as well. So I want to hear from you. Do you remind yourself of any other films that after watching Wicked you're like, ooh, yeah, Wicked kind of reminds me of said movie? Let me know down below, because I will be down there answering those comments away. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when new videos go live on this channel. And thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to John Campea for having made his way over to the Orlando area so that I could actually have met him, because that was super cool. And thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Scrolling through YouTube, same old routine, then bam, movie savant, what a scene. Trivia bombshells dropping knowledge like rain. Forget the dishes, gotta watch it again. Movie buffs unite, savants to place. Subscribe and hit the bell, don't leave a trace. Next level knowledge keeps you in the loop. Savants got the scoop, ain't nothing to recoup.